I spent close to $500 on this series, but no, I don't think you should read it. Does that make any sense to you? No, right? Well, here I am to let you know whether or not you should actually give Throne of Glass a chance, especially for my girls who have finished Fearless and they have a huge hole in their heart and they want to get their heart broken again. They keep asking me, will Throne of Glass do that? So I'm here to completely and honestly break down whether Throne of Glass is the series for you and whether or not it is going to be your next 6-star read. Throne of Glass will always be underhyped in my opinion. It does get a good amount of love on TikTok, Instagram. I do tend to see it on social media pretty often, but I feel like it is criminally underhyped on YouTube. I don't know why, because Throne of Glass to me is one of the best series I've ever read and the best series I'm probably ever going to read. I would love to speak my piece. And I'm also here to tell you how to read it if you do start reading it. What my credentials are. I'm somebody who got into reading for romance. I really like romance books, especially romantasy, because I do like the fantasy aspect of books, but I felt like Throne of Glass was an extremely intimidating thing to jump into because romance was not the main plot. Stay with me here, romance girlies, please. Romance is not the main plot point, so I was just like, okay, so I guess it's very political. Don't know if that's necessarily my taste. It is an extremely large series. 8 books, and they are chunky, and they get chunkier as they go down the line. The conversation on social media tends to be like, hey, if you want a series to absolutely destroy you and get stuck with you for months and years and forever in your brain, in your heart, changes your brain chemistry. I was overwhelmed. I was like, okay, do I really want to commit to something that's going to kill my spirit? And then I did. My life has never been the same. I have 2 Throne of Glass tattoos. I read the series less than a year ago. I am an impulsive person. Do not recommend this methodology, but that series completely changed my life and I knew it from book 1. I had read ACOTAR previously, which was another one of Sarah J. Maas's works. It is her adult series, if you haven't heard of it. And it was very spicy, very romance-centered, still kept me on my toes. I absolutely loved ACOTAR. I was like, nothing could ever beat this, because that was the series that got me back into reading. I picked up Throne of Glass book 1, and the moment that I met our main female character, I promise you, the moment I met her, I was like, that's it. This series is gonna be ACOTAR for me. I don't know why. I felt an immediate connection with Selena. Maybe it's a me thing. Just all that to say that this series completely transformed my life in the best way possible, and I want to advise you to maybe take the risk and give it a chance. Throne of Glass follows Selena Sardothian, Adarlan's notorious female assassin. She is the shit. This woman is top of the top of the top since she was 19. Do you know what it is to be the most famous assassin since you were 19? Now, Throne of Glass, book 1. We'll get to reading order later, but book 1 of Throne of Glass, like the actual like Throne of Glass, that book. She pretty much makes a bargain with the king to compete and be king's champion. That's kind of as much as I can say because reading order does play a role in this. And if you read another book first, anything else I can say about Throne of Glass book 1 will be a spoiler. So gotta tread very lightly with that. Pretty much the story just follows our main character and her discovering herself. It is one of the most powerful character development stories I've ever read as well. For many of the characters, the development that these characters go through, it's kind of to the point that if I was to reread Throne of Glass, I would start sobbing because the characters in the first book feel like babies in comparison to where they ended up, and it makes my heart ache knowing everything they've been through, and it makes me adore the innocence that they had in the beginning so much more. It is such a powerful journey for all of our characters that just completely mind-blowing. I'm going to get a little bit into reading order just in case some of you don't understand that part or haven't heard of the reading order yet. Throne of Glass was published with the prequel, third or fourth, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's third. It was published at either third or fourth, but it was like 2-3 months apart, so it gets a little bit skewed. But we have this. This is our big conversation. Whether to read Throne of Glass first or whether to read Assassin's Blade first. So Assassin's Blade is our prequel to Throne of Glass. It is a series of small novellas about Selena. It gives you a lot of important insight into challenges that she faced and different people that she met and different relationships hardships that she built and kind of what brought her from point A to point B, which is the starting point of Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass is the first book. Like I said, this is Celaena's start. Oh look, it says right here, for my people of Game of Thrones, Celaena is as much an epic hero as Jon Snow. Thank you. Anyways, this is pretty much where Celaena kind of gets into the whole like becoming the king's champion and the whole challenges where she faces a lot of other criminals. This book, Assassin's Blade, was published third. In publication order, we have Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Assassin's Blade, our prequel, Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. Because this is a prequel, a lot of people read Assassin's Blade first. I'm going to give you my personal opinion for my reading journey. If anybody starts fighting me on my opinion, don't do that, because that pisses me off. And I'm going to make a future video on this, but it will involve spoilers. One of the arguments that pisses me off the most is, well, this is the only correct reading order. No, it is not. Reading is very subjective, and it is very much based on the type of feeling that you want this series to evoke. Personally, I read Assassin's Blade third. I very, very much adored reading it third, because I feel like the author publishes things in an intended order. For me, getting to see an insight into Celaena's past after I had already met Celaena allowed me to feel the hardships that she went through in Assassin's Blade significantly more. It allowed me to feel her growth significantly more, because let me tell you, my girl was arrogant as shit in Assassin's Blade. Getting to meet her as the woman that she is in this book, and then getting to go back and see who she used to be before all of it, gave me a lot of sentiment for Celaena. I felt like I could relate to her significantly more because I really knew her. For me personally, to get attached to a character, I really like to know them extremely, extremely deeply before I get an insight into everything else, because I'm personally, if I don't care for the character in a book, I'm not gonna care for the trauma that they went through. I'm gonna care about it, but I'm not gonna feel it deep. I'll sympathize, but I won't empathize. I feel like I very, very deeply empathized with Celaena having read Assassin's Blade third. If you read Assassin's Blade third, you follow Celaena's emotional journey and her acceptance journey of all the things she went through. We start accepting the stories that happen in Assassin's Blade when Celaena starts accepting her past. And for me, that is an extremely, extremely, extremely powerful thing to do. However, I tend to not recommend people to read it third, because I feel like my sentiment towards it is a unique sentiment because of the way that I work as a person and the way that I process my characters as a person. People say they get the most emotional impact reading it first. The way that I kind of spark the conversation is you want to know your characters deeply before knowing what they've been through, or you want to get immediately thrown into living it with them and just kind of follow their story, and you get to just kind of get the jarring effect of it from the get-go instead of kind of the character depth. Not saying you're gonna miss out on character depth, but one is much more focused on Celaena's emotional journey, and reading it first is much more focused on Celaena's physical journey. The reason the reading order is so important for the enjoyment of the series is because something happens in Assassin's Blade, several things happen in Assassin's Blade that are immediately told to you in Throne of Glass. So if you read Throne of Glass first, you go in it already knowing some of the hardships that she experienced and some of the big oomph moments that she experienced in Assassin's Blade. Afterwards, you get to understand the impact of it. Or if you read it first, you get to firsthand experience those hardships, and then the story just kind of continues. The reason I tend to tell people to read it first is because as human beings, it is a lot easier to just process things when they're just you're just getting hit by them. Since we do explore a lot of continents with her here, and we do explore a lot of different places, a lot of different characters, a lot of different stories, they get brought up constantly in Heir of Fire, which is third or fourth book, depending what order you read it in. So for me, it also kept all of this information fresh when it kept getting brought up to me in the upcoming books. So do with that what you will. Second part of the reading order, the tandem read. These two bad boys right here. Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. Empire of Storms follows 4-ish of our characters. Tower of Dawn follows 2 of our characters. These 2 books are happening at the same exact time, which means if you read it in publication order, you end on a really shitty cliffhanger in Empire of Storms, and you get brought right back to the beginning, and you have to get through all the Tower of Dawn. So we're here in absolute pain and suffering and trauma. And once you finish that, you have to go all the way back here to read about 2 other characters. That is why a lot of people recommend doing the tandem read. I will link the tandem read guide below in case you do want to do it. I will always recommend the tandem read. I personally did not have a great time reading the tandem read. It sucked because the pacing of this book is significantly slower than the pacing in this book. So reading them at the same time, all I wanted to do was get back to Empire of Storms, while Tower of Dawn was like la-di-da. It was pure suffering that by the end of it, I would read chunks of one book and then just read chunks of the other book just based on vibes instead of following the tandem read. Because the tandem read is kind of like chronological order of the events. So whenever something happened here, whatever was happening here during that time, that would create your tandem. I hated it. I really, really did. It was awful. It made me hate this book a lot more than I think I would have had I read them separately. I ignored a lot of the plot points that could have been fun in this book because they were boring the shit out of me because these people were like going through 20 billion other things. I once more will always recommend the tandem read because I also feel like I would have enjoyed Tower of Dawn a lot more had I not done the tandem read. But had I finished Empire of Storms where Empire of Storms ended off and then I had to read this chunky book from the beginning, I would have thrown myself out the window. I preferred to suffer than have to go back to the beginning for Tower of Dawn. When I go into my reread, I do want to read them separately because obviously I already know what happens in the series, and I do want to give Tower of Dawn the time and love that it deserves. Don't feel bad if you're in the middle of the tandem read and you're just like, F this shit, I'm gonna just finish Empire of Storms and then just finish Tower of Dawn. There's no shame in it. That's like, it's just do what you want. Now that we have reading order taken care of, we can go back to me convincing you to read the series. If you're somebody who like magic, fantasy, there is politics, which are important, but they are also easy to follow, in my personal opinion. Throne of Glass is for you. If you want really hot MMCs and extremely powerful FMCs, Throne of Glass is for you. Selena Sardathian and others are my all-time favorite women. I've never seen a character that has overcome so much and still is so positive, and she just keeps pushing forward and she keeps getting knocked down and she's pushed forward and knocked down, and it is such an emotional journey. If you want some amazing multiple couples and a lot of pining, like so much yearning, this is everything. If you want kind of realistic relationships but with the unrealistic guy, Throne of Glass. As somebody who is very romance-centered, I feel like Throne of Glass takes a lot more of the Game of Thrones form. The romance is the subplot, which is usually not the most appealing thing for some readers, including myself, because I love me a good romance. And yet somehow this series has my favorite couples out of any of the series that I have read. I believe about 4 to 5 of the characters are on my book boyfriend list. My book boyfriend list consists of maybe 30 primary men, but 5 of them, that's a sixth of my list, is just Throne of Glass, which means she knows how to write her men, and they are the best men. I'm pretty sure like I have some of them like back to back as like my top boyfriends. I adore them. This series is not a spicy series. Even if you really like spicy books, this series is worth it. Like this is, I promise you, it is so worth it. This is not a spicy series, but we do get within the last 2 books, I believe, a few scenes, I'd say maybe like 2 or 3 scattered in there. Very vague, pretty closed door scenes, and they take up about nothing in the book. This isn't even the biggest book, by the way. The spicy scenes take up about, in total, about this much right here. Of 3 books this length, that's how much it would take up. Take this lightly. Again, it is very closed door spice. It's vague. It is not graphic spice. But if you do not like spice at all, I still extremely highly recommend the series because the spice does take place at the very, very end, and it is extremely, very easily skippable. You won't miss any part of the story if you just pass the spice, because the amount of plot and the amount of depth in this series will make it so damn insignificant. I don't remember a single spice scene in this series. I know that there were. Very minimal, but I know that there were. I don't remember any of them because it is so minuscule in the grand schemes of how powerful and how intensive and how amazing the series is. I would never recommend a book with any type of spice to people who do not like spice, except Throne of Glass, because you can just skip it. It's so small. I promise you. It is like, if anybody ever tells me that Throne of Glass is a spicy series, we're gonna have to throw hands, because it's like 3 total chapters of like 2 pages each. It is so minuscule. If you do not like spice, this series can still very much be for you because it is not a freaking plot point at all. This is literally, it is nothing, guys. Trust me. Trust me. Trust my passion for this series. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't care for romance, the story is fucking phenomenal. Phenomenal. If you're gonna read Throne of Glass, it's gonna be a lot, and you're not gonna understand jack shit. Just kind of like keep dumping them into your memory bucket, like loosely, because I promise as you keep reading, those puzzle pieces will put themselves together so you don't have to do the math. You don't have to be thinking, well, what does this mean? And what does that mean? Relax. They'll let you know, and you'll be able to like keep up with the pace of the story, I promise you. So don't get overwhelmed and intimidated because there's so much unknown. Just kind of ride the wave, and then just let the waves crash over you and you'll drown for a little bit, and then you come back and you're like, what a wonderful series. That's kind of how that goes. The amount of plot twists in this series, Jesus fucking Christ, the amount of plot twists in this series. I did get some things spoiled for me. It is very hard in the social media age to get nothing spoiled for you. Please don't look up any pictures, guys. Please don't look up any pictures. If anybody wants me to drop pictures and make a small post of the characters so that you don't have to look them up, let me know so I can do that for you. But please don't look up anything at all. Nothing. Not even the name of the character. Don't look up anything because you're gonna spoil it for yourself. I promise you. Even though I did get some stuff spoiled for me, there was still enough to go around. I was still absolutely shocked about all of it. I was shocked about the things that I knew, and I was shocked about the billions of things that I didn't know. If you think you know what's going on, you most likely do not. There's always gonna be something that is going to just like blow your goddamn mind. Like, even if you know what is going on, there's going to be something that you did not pick up on at all, and it's gonna just leave you like, holy shit, like, oh my god, what? Wow, take a breath, because I just cannot emphasize enough how awesome, since this series planted so many seeds from the beginning, once that plot twist hits and you put everything together, you're just left like, even if there was something that you knew was gonna happen, you probably don't even understand why it was gonna happen. I promise you, you're not gonna be disappointed. You're not gonna be disappointed by the plot in this book one bit. It is so freaking good. I feel like the only people that this series will not be enjoyable for are people who don't care for a lot of like the fantasy aspects of a romantasy. I wouldn't consider it a romantasy. I'd consider it a fantasy book with a romance side plot, but again, the romance is still there. If you want to dive into the romance, you can. If you don't care for the romance, you can ignore it. I personally am somebody who would really like to dive into the romance, so I ate up every single chapter of these books. It was so damn good. A lot of people also will start reading it and they are bored. I'm gonna tell you, you do have to push through a little bit. For me, I didn't, because I found Throne of Glass book 1 to be extremely fun. It kept me on my toes the whole time. It was very light, very airy, and then it just keeps getting light and airy until everything starts getting a little bit, humid, and then you start losing your breath, and then the world's on fire, and then it's over. I think the story really does start kicking off heavily in Air of Fire, which is the third book, not including the novella. But I think that each book has significant parts that still keep you there until you get to the huge part of the series. It's not like one of those series that you have to push through and it'll get good. You have to push through because the beginning of the series is extremely light. It feels very YA, but like very juvenile YA. The series is a YA series, but as you go down, there's a lot more depth to it, and I feel like as an actual young adult audience and as an adult audience, you are able to empathize and feel that depth a lot more, but that depth doesn't start showing until Air of Fire. But the first two books do give you really good substance for a really good story. They have extremely powerful moments that happen. They have very fun and funny moments that happen. And I was just as short of breath in the beginning of the series as I was in the end, except in the end I was short of breath significantly more. If you like very complex characters, this is for my Kit girlies. This is for my Nesta girlies. If you've read ACOTAR, so many characters here that have so much complexity to them. I'm not somebody who's very fond of black and white characters. I do like a lot of like internal turmoil between my characters, and I want them to be struggling and figuring themselves out and having parts of the character where you're just like, this isn't right, but then parts of the character where like, oh, this is what you're going through and I can understand it. This series is completely full of it. If you want actually morally gray characters, Throne of Glass is going to give that to you. I'm somebody who very much loves my morally gray characters. I love my men who hate everybody but her. You're gonna get that here. I actually even have a friend who hated ACOTAR and hates Sarah J. Maas's writing, but can admit that Throne of Glass is a good series. This series is going to be absolutely life-changing. It's one of the few series that I can promise you're gonna adore, and if you don't adore it, you're reading it wrong. You're not. You know, reading is completely subjective, but it's one of those series that I could very, very confidently every single time recommend to absolutely everybody, because I have never had a series evoke so much emotion from me. Like, if you saw me crying in my Fearless Reading vlog, know that I was profusely sobbing that I couldn't even handle it for 3 of these books. Kingdom of Ash, the last book in this series, had me feeling things that I never in my life thought I could feel from a book. I'm not somebody who gets very emotionally attached to media. I'm not somebody who feels those emotions very deeply, or at least I didn't. But Throne of Glass completely opened that to me, and it helped me feel so close to my characters and so close to the stories that I'm reading that I think about these characters every single day. And my heart actively broke for these characters, and I'd go to bed thinking about them, and I'd wake up thinking about them. And another beautiful thing about this series is that I'm gonna do a reread soon for it, and I'm gonna be vlogging it book by book. I'm dying to get back into this world, so please bear with me, because I'm gonna make multiple videos for a few months about Throne of Glass, both spoiler and non-spoiler, because it is the type of series that the amount of breadcrumbs that they give you that you just missed the first read through, and when you go back and you see all of the foreshadowing and all of the tiny minuscule unimportant details that you thought were complete BS, it didn't even cross your mind, and you get to the end of this series and you start seeing all of those little things, you are just in absolute awe. And the amount of thought that was put into every little move, like I promise you, like they would lift a finger and it means something 7 books later. It is so well written. The story has not a single plot hole. And if you think it has a plot hole, read it again, because I promise you, you're gonna close that gap. It is a series that I feel like I'm gonna be able to reread until the end of time and always find something else that is gonna just absolutely baffle me, and it's just gonna make me fall deeper in love with all of these characters and deeper in love with this world. This series is timeless. The amount of depth and breakdown that can go into this series, the amount of emotion, the amount of intricate characters that were built from this, the amount of worlds, the amount of cultures. This series is by far, without a doubt, the best series I have ever read in my entire life, and I could never ever recommend it enough, and I will never ever shut up about it. If you know me, even if you're not a reader and we're out at the function, I'm gonna mention how phenomenal Throne of Glass is. I can give you a 99% guarantee that your life will be forever changed if you read Throne of Glass. And even to the point that if you start reading it, you don't care for it and you just kind of can't get through it, you're in a slumpy mood, you don't want to, this is the one series that I will push on you again and tell you, hey, give it another chance, because I promise you sooner rather than later, it is so worth it. I could ramble about the series for hours, but I'm not gonna keep going in circles about it. For the majority of people, I'm gonna tell you, if you like fantasy books and you genuinely like fantasy and you love a good romance and you love pining and you love depth and you love intricate characters and you just love reading, and even if you hate reading, this series is it. I hope that my adoration for the series did not scare you away and you're gonna pick up the first book, whichever one it may be. And if you do, and if you decide to read it, please comment on my videos and let me know and tell me every thought, but please put spoiler warnings, because if anybody spoils the series, I'm gonna freak out, okay? This series is one that you don't even want a single spoiler about, because it is so freaking good. I can ramble about Throne of Glass non-stop. You've probably seen it in my posts if you've looked at my TikTok, my Instagram. These characters, this world is absolutely everything to me, and I will never shut up about it, and I will never stop recommending. But for the sake of allowing you to go and buy that first book or go and rent it from Libby and start reading the book, I just really hope that you do very much enjoy Throne of Glass if you do happen to pick it up. Anybody at all wants me to speak any more on this series, please don't be shy, because I can speak on it for absolute hours about the same things. If you guys want to hear me talking about it again and again and again and again, I promise you I will find something to say. I really hope you enjoy it, and I really hope you love this series as much as I do, and even if you don't, maybe try it again. I love you guys. I'm going to just say it for today because it matters to me and it's based on the series. You guys are my little fire hearts, and I will be here to whatever end.